That cow scene looked disturbingly real. I couldn't think of any other way to open this review for Somewhere in Montana, which was a film that I screened. It's actually been a good while, you guys. I'm super late getting to it, but I did want to review it. I think it was either nominated for or won something through Film Threat's Award This that they have every year. If you're not familiar with Film Threat, check out their channel. They have great discussions about film and TV. Anyway, it's an indie drama that was written and directed by Brandon Smith, and it stars a couple of recognizable faces. One was Graham McTavish, I've seen in the Hobbit movie, and then the other one was Michelle Hurd, and a couple of other actors that I don't think I've ever seen before. But basically, the film follows a struggling Montana rancher who has agreed to let a Hollywood film production group or whatever, he's agreed to allow a film to be made on his ranch, his land. And what follows when the Hollywood folks come into town is this culture clash, basically, between the ranch owner and the eccentric progressive filmmaker played by Matt Drago. And the movie explores various themes such as grief, tolerance, and whether people with extremely contrasting views can find common ground. There were several positives about this film. One was that I really enjoyed the movie about making a movie sort of storyline that went on in here. I like behind-the-scenes stuff about film, just seeing how productions are made, how everything comes together, all the creative choices that go along with bringing a project to life. So that was really cool and fascinating to me. So that was already a plus in this film's favor. I also liked seeing the clash between the Hollywood folks and the locals, especially the ranch owner. It elicited some genuine laughs from me when certain things happened. There's a moment in the film where they're talking about the patriarchy, and the ranch owner has a couple of quips about the patriarchy that I thought were pretty funny. And then it was also funny seeing the film crew react in horror whenever they realized how many people around them were walking around carrying guns because it's Montana. I mean, like they had the mindset that the guns just might fire themselves just for existing, which unfortunately several people have that mindset. And it was funny to see that being poked fun at. But seriously, how did they do that cow scene? I want to know. There is a scene where a cow is shot and it looked extremely real. Maybe it was. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I went searching and I couldn't find the answer because this is a very small film, super indie. I'm not going to be able to find a ton of information about it unless I go straight to the director and ask him. And maybe I will. Maybe I'll reach out to Paulie and see if he can find this out for me, because it was Paulie that I got the screener from, and I do need to write the review for this for the Latino Slant. Check out their website. The heart of the movie is the dynamic between the character of John, who is the rancher, played by Graham McTavish, and the director, played by Matt Drago. They are at two complete opposite ends, ideologically and personality-wise. However, they're both kind of similar underneath. And the movie's central question, or what I took from the movie as the central question, is whether two people with such opposing beliefs can learn to respect one another. And in today's time, it feels like that is increasingly difficult, right? Especially with social media and all of that. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. John is emotionally closed off for various reasons. He has issues with finances, which is why he has agreed to let this company come and film on his land. But his issues go beyond that. He's emotionally trapped in the past because he's lost someone very dear to him, and he cannot get past that. It's extremely hard, and he's struggling with that. And so his grief comes out a lot of times in his brusque personality, and the way he reacts to those around him, especially because these Hollywood folks coming into his land and they're just so different, and he has little to no tolerance for their behavior or their mindset. And I liked how the film attempts to address these types of issues that he's going through. There is a quote. I wrote down a few quotes from the film because I did like those when they came along. But one of the characters is telling John, "You help no one by holding on so tight to a past you can't reclaim." And at one point, there is a ceremony that his American Indian friend has him go through to try to get through this grieving process. And he talks about how giving away the items of a loved one is allowing them to live more through those items being given to other people who are using them and enjoying them and stuff like that. I thought that was a nice sentiment to be mentioned in the story, and those moments were kind of touching. I also appreciated the film's attempt to emphasize valuing people despite their differences. It made a valiant effort. Did it execute that perfectly? No, not really, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. There were some other things that I appreciated about this film. One was I learned what a Boston marriage was. I don't think I'd ever heard that before, but you learn something new every day. Another one was that I liked that they showed a very close same-sex friendship relationship without it automatically becoming something that was romantic, because I thought I knew what direction this was going to go in, and I was thinking, why are we going to get bogged down in this potential romance between these people? That feels like a distraction from the actual story, and that's not what happened, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. There was no romantic entanglement storylines. When I say entanglement, I think of you-know-who, but there were no romantic storylines at all. It was really about this rancher and his emotional struggles and learning how to move past his grief, everybody learning how to respect each other despite differences, stuff like that. That's the core theme of the story. Now, as far as potential negatives, while I appreciate the messaging in here, it honestly feels extremely on the nose, and consequently, it feels a little heavy-handed and overly obvious. The dialogue also feels sometimes unnatural because it's so focused on delivering the theme or the message of the theme of the movie, and a lot of the social commentary, these little arguments and bickerings that they get into with each other because of their clashing viewpoints, a lot of that feels oversimplified for the very reason that I kind of touched on before, because of how divided it seems a lot of people are. And yes, social media is probably magnifying that, but you do see a lot of things happening in public. Well, granted, in video. I've never really myself witnessed some of the really caustic things that are happening that we see online, but it's happening, and it's pretty disturbing. I don't think I've ever seen people so divided in my whole life. And I'm not a spring chicken, y'all. I've been around for a while. And yeah, I don't like it. Not a fan. So I did appreciate the attempt to deal with that, but it does feel, like I said, a little oversimplified. It presents these complicated ideological / cultural conflicts in a more idealistic and neat way than I think reality tends to allow. And I found myself wishing that some of the conversations had been a little bit more nuanced. The character of Fabian, I believe that was the name of the director, played by Matt Drago, he could be entertaining, but his performance, I thought, sometimes tipped into the area of being a bit too exaggerated. And then there was another character in there, an actor in this movie that they're making. His storyline, I get why they made it happen that way, because it does involve how things play out in the end. But I don't think it was executed very convincingly. There's a certain thing that happens in there with him. And when it's going on, the reaction of the people around him, it just seemed so kind of lame and wimpy and weak. And I couldn't really buy into that as being authentic, what I was watching, even though I do know of an instance where this particular thing that happened in this movie really did occur in real life. And as soon as certain things were shown, I knew exactly what was going to happen because I remembered when it happened in real life. You'll know what I mean maybe when you get to it, but I had trouble with the way that part was executed. And then there were other moments where it didn't feel like the acting was the strongest with some of the characters, especially in certain very dramatic moments. And at other times, character reactions to conflict felt a bit inauthentic or misplaced or overly exaggerated. I got the point that was attempted, but the execution wasn't always the smoothest and didn't feel organic or natural. So overall, Somewhere in Montana it's an imperfect film. It's clunky in some ways, and it's occasionally preachy a bit, even though I might agree with this messaging, like I said, but it's sincere, and I could tell that it was, and I may not think that it fully succeeds in its messaging, but I do appreciate what it's trying to do. And at its core, it's about themes that are universal: grief, empathy, finding respect for people even when you vehemently disagree with them, which, as I said, seems a little harder and harder to do these days, but it is possible. And even though the world may be more complicated than this film presents, I do respect the attempt to encourage that conversation. And getting back to the importance of valuing people despite their differences, can we get back to that? I'm not sure, but at least this film tries. So kudos to it for that. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now about Somewhere in Montana. It's currently available to watch on various digital platforms to rent or purchase. I don't think it's streaming anywhere for free, except maybe Hoopla, if you have access to that. Okay, that's it for now, you guys. Later.